The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was wide and tall. Its roof arched high, covered in shining silver plates that caught the glow of hundreds of bright lights. From above, banners of many colors hung down, each one carrying the mark of a different world. Long curved rows of seats stretched in circles around a wide floor. It was here that the leaders of many races gathered to speak, argue, and decide the future of the galaxy. On this day, the council was full. Almost every seat was taken. Tall beings with scaled faces sat beside short ones with smooth shells. Some had wings folded behind their backs, while others had long arms that touched the floor. The air hummed with soft voices and shifting tones. It was not only a meeting. It was a stage, and every leader wanted to be seen. At the center, close to the speaking floor, sat the human group. They were not many in number, only 6 people. They wore dark coats marked with a small blue and green symbol of Earth. Their leader, a man named Paul, sat in silence. His face was calm, his hands rested together, and his eyes watched the other races with patience. Humans were still new to the council. They had joined not long ago, but they were already known by all. What made them stand out was not power or wealth. It was their way of speaking. Humans were polite in every word, calm in every reply. They never raised their voice. They never mocked. They listened more than they spoke. Because of this, many other races had begun to think of them as harmless. In the rows behind Paul, 2 council members whispered. "Humans are strange," said a thin creature with pale skin and black eyes. "Always smiling, always nodding. Do they even know what they want?" "They are soft," another answered with a click of its jaw. "Soft ones do not last long in the galaxy. They will bend to any push." These whispers spread. More leaders shared the same thoughts. In their eyes, humans were too courteous, too eager to keep peace, too ready to agree. Kindness was seen not as strength, but as weakness. Yet Paul sat without showing any sign of hearing them. His team behind him also remained calm. They looked at notes, checked screens, and spoke quietly to one another. They knew the whispers. They had heard them many times before, but they never reacted. When the meeting bell rang, the voices fell silent. The council speaker, a tall figure with golden feathers, stood in the center. His voice carried across the hall. "Today, we gather to discuss the peace treaties between our worlds," the speaker said. "We welcome Earth, the newest member of this council, to share its voice." The attention of the hall turned to the human seats. Paul stood slowly. He walked to the center floor, his steps steady and quiet. He bowed his head slightly before speaking. "Honored Council," he said in a calm tone, "we are here to build a bridge of trust. Earth is young among the stars, but we bring with us a long history of struggle and hope. We believe in peace, and we wish to share it with all." His words were simple. His voice was soft, yet clear enough to carry across the great hall. Many nodded. Some smiled politely. Others hid their smirks. One council member, a tall and wide being with thick horns, leaned back and muttered, "Always peace. Always soft words. Where is the strength?" Paul continued as if he had not heard. He spoke about Earth's wish to trade fairly, to share knowledge, to learn from other worlds. He explained how peace would bring safety and growth to all. He used no sharp words, no threats, no force. When he finished, the hall clapped politely. Yet the sound felt hollow. Many leaders thought the same thing: humans were harmless. High above, on the rows of stone benches, the Dreth leader sat still. His skin was dark green, his eyes narrow, and his voice was known for its sharpness. He leaned forward, watching Paul with a slow smile. Unlike the others, he did not laugh at humans quietly. He planned something else. But Paul did not notice the Dretha's stare. He walked back to his seat, calm as before. His people sat beside him, quiet but proud. They believed in their way. To them, courtesy was not weakness. It was control. Yet the council did not see this truth. As the next speaker took the floor, the whispers began again. Some voices carried doubt. Some carried scorn. Few carried respect. The hall of the council glowed with banners and light, but in the quiet shadows of the high rows, plans began to form. The Dreth would test these humans. And the council would watch. For now, the humans remained calm. Their smiles stayed soft, their voices stayed polite. But beneath that calm, something old and deep waited. Something the council had not yet seen. The council hall glowed with soft lights as the next sessions began. Many leaders rose one after another, each sharing their views about trade, defense, and exploration. Some spoke with heavy words, others with sharp tones. Every voice carried pride for their own world. The humans sat quietly in their row. Paul listened with calm focus. He did not move much, only nodded at points of agreement. His team behind him wrote notes on small screens. They whispered only when needed, careful not to disturb the flow of speeches. Their calm presence seemed almost out of place in the loud and colorful gathering. High in his seat, the Dreth leader leaned forward. His name was Cran, and he was known for using words like blades. His people, the Dreth, were strong in battle and sharp in politics. They respected force above all. To them, courtesy was a mask for fear. When Cran watched humans, he saw nothing but a mask. Cran raised his hand, asking to speak. The council speaker allowed him to take the floor. The sound of heavy steps echoed as Cran walked to the center. His tall frame cast a long shadow. His voice rumbled across the hall. Great Council, Cran began, we have heard many words today. Some are bold, some are clear. But some are too soft. Too careful. I speak of our new members, the humans of Earth. At once, every eye in the hall turned to Paul and his group. Paul stayed still. His face did not change. Cran continued, his tone sharper. They talk of peace, yet what is peace without strength? What value is a promise when the one who gives it cannot stand on his own? Several leaders shifted in their seats. Some whispered. A few nodded, agreeing with Cran. Others frowned but said nothing. Paul did not move. His hands rested on the table, steady. Cran's eyes narrowed. He wanted to draw a reaction. He wanted to test this human calm. He lifted his voice louder. Humans call Earth their home, but Earth is a small rock at the edge of space. A world of storms, hunger, and weak armies. What do they know of true power? Their ships are slow, their fleets small, their weapons old. Yet they come here speaking of trust as if they could defend it. The words spread through the council hall like sparks. Some laughed softly. Some raised their brows. The humans remained calm. Paul did not reply. He only looked at Cran with steady eyes. That silence made Cran's smile widen. He spoke again, this time with mockery. Tell me, humans. Do you believe your kindness will save you when storms of war come? Do you think your polite smiles will stop fire from burning your cities? Or is it that you expect others to fight for you while you bow and say thank you? The council reacted in mixed ways. Some chuckled, others stayed quiet, but many watched closely to see how the humans would answer. Paul rose slowly from his seat. His movement was calm, measured, without rush. He walked toward the center floor. The hall grew quiet. Every step he took carried weight, though his face showed no anger. He stopped a short distance from Cran. He bowed his head slightly in respect to the speaker, then turned his eyes to the Dreth leader. "Honored council," Paul said in his steady voice, "the words of our friend from Dreth are strong. They come from a world that knows battle well. We respect that. But let us speak truth. Earth has not come here to boast of ships or weapons. We come to build trust. Peace is not made by the biggest gun. Peace is made when respect walks beside power." The hall grew quiet at his words. Some leaned forward. They had expected him to shrink back, but he did not. Cran tilted his head. His smile was thin. "Fine words," he said. "But words are easy. I speak of strength. Show me where yours is." Paul's eyes met his, calm but sharp. "Strength is not only in weapons," Paul replied. "Strength is in endurance, in patience, in the will to stand when the world falls against you. That is what Earth knows." The council watched in silence. The air felt heavy. But Cran was not finished. He leaned closer, his voice low but still loud enough to reach the rows. "Endurance. Patience. Those are the words of the weak. Your people smile because they fear what will happen if they frown. You hide behind soft voices because you are too fragile to roar." This time, the hall shook with mixed reactions. Some aliens gasped. Others laughed openly. The test was clear now. Cran wanted to break the calm mask of humans. He wanted to prove they were powerless. Paul did not move. His face did not change. He only stood there in silence, his hands resting calmly at his sides. His patience held firm, but the council could see his eyes growing sharper, his gaze harder. The test was not over. Cran had pushed, but more words were yet to come. The Dreth would press further, and the council would keep watching. The council hall was filled with a heavy silence after Paul's calm reply. Many leaders leaned forward in their seats. Some were impressed that he had not broken under Cran's sharp words. Others still believed he was only hiding weakness. The test had only begun, and everyone waited to see how far it would go. Cran, the Dreth leader, stood tall in the center floor. His wide frame blocked much of the light that came from above. His sharp eyes stayed fixed on Paul. He had pushed humans once, twice, and yet they stayed calm. That only made him want to push harder. He spoke again, louder this time so every corner of the hall could hear. "Humans speak of peace and patience. They claim strength hides in quiet hearts. But I see only fear. A race too weak to fight hides behind fine words. Is this what the council has accepted as an equal?" The words spread like fire. Some leaders shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Others nodded as if they agreed. A few chuckled, enjoying the spectacle. Paul stood without moving. His calm presence did not change. But inside his mind, thoughts moved quickly. He had known this day might come. He had known that patience could be mistaken for weakness. The question was how far he would allow the insult to go. Cran's smile grew. He raised his hand and pointed at Paul. "You speak of history, human. Tell us then. What history do you have? A world of storms and hunger. A world where your kind crawled through mud and struck stones to make fire. Tell us, What glory is there in that? Paul's jaw tightened, though only slightly. The council could not miss the change. His eyes sharpened, no longer soft. His silence was no longer just patience. It felt heavy, like a weight pressing against the room. But Cran pressed on. His voice carried scorn. You tell us Earth has endured. Yet endurance means nothing if you remain small. You have no empire. You have no fleets that stretch across the stars. You are children who wandered too far from home. The council chamber was no longer calm. The air vibrated with whispers. Many eyes turned from Cran to Paul, waiting. They wanted to see if humans would finally lose their mask of courtesy. Paul's hand gripped the edge of the table near him. He breathed slowly. Still, he held himself back. Cran saw this and delivered his hardest strike. His tone was sharp, his words cutting deep. You honor the dead explorers of your kind. You speak of those who burned in space, who froze in the dark, who starved on failing ships. I say their deaths were wasted. They chased stars with empty hands, and they failed. That is the truth of human history. The hall froze. Not a sound moved. Every leader in the council felt the weight of those words. To mock the memory of the dead was to cross a line. Many eyes turned to Paul, and now even those who laughed before leaned back in silence. They wanted to see the answer. Paul lifted his head. His calm mask was still there, but it no longer looked the same. His voice when he spoke was not soft. It was firm, low, and steady, like stone breaking the surface of still water. You speak boldly, Cran, Paul said, his gaze fixed on the Dreth leader. You mock our past. You mock those who gave their lives so others could reach further. But you do not understand what those lives mean. Every failure you speak of is written into us. Every loss became a step forward. Every grave became the soil from which strength grew. The council listened in silence. Paul's words were not loud, but they carried weight. Cran's smile faltered for a brief moment, then returned. Fine speeches again. But words cannot hide what you are. Paul's eyes narrowed. No, he replied, words cannot hide what we are. And today, you will see. The hall grew tense. Every being in the chamber felt the shift. The air seemed heavier, as though something had awakened. The humans had sat in silence for long hours, answering insult with courtesy. But that patience had reached its limit. Cran tilted his head, studying Paul. For the first time, his confidence wavered. He felt something in the man's voice that he had not expected. It was not anger. It was not rage. It was a deeper power, one born from endurance too long tested. Paul stepped forward. His calm tone was gone. His words were measured, sharp, and each one struck the council like a bell. You laugh at Earth because it is small. You laugh at our dead because they failed. Yet you forget one truth. Humanity learns. Humanity remembers. And when our patience ends, when our courtesy breaks, we do not remain small. We rise. The council chamber was still. No one dared to interrupt. Even Cran stood without speaking, his smile fading. For the first time since joining the council, the humans no longer looked harmless. Their calm courtesy had begun to turn into something else. The breaking point had come. And everyone in that great hall felt it. The council hall was silent. Every leader, every envoy, every guard felt the change in the air. For hours the humans had sat in quiet patience. For hours their smiles and soft words had been taken as weakness. But now, in the stillness after Cran's insult, that calm began to shift. Paul stood tall in the center of the floor. His voice had always been gentle, but when he spoke now, it carried weight. It was steady, sharp, and clear, like iron striking stone. "You have mistaken kindness for weakness," Paul said, his eyes locked on Cran. "You have mistaken patience for fear. Let me speak plain, so all can hear. Humanity does not bow because it is weak. Humanity bows because it has learned when to stand and when to wait." The words rolled across the chamber. Many alien leaders straightened in their seats. They had never heard a human speak in this way. Paul turned slowly, his gaze sweeping across the council rows. "You look at Earth and see only a small world. You look at us and see only smiles. But you do not know the storms we faced. You do not know the ice that tried to erase us, the fires that consumed our homes, the wars that almost destroyed us. We survived them all. We endured. That is why we can choose peace. But make no mistake, peace is our choice, not our limit." Murmurs filled the chamber. Some members nodded in respect, while others exchanged uneasy glances. The humans were no longer the soft figures they had imagined. Cran tried to cut in, his deep voice rumbling. "Strong words." But words alone. Paul raised his hand, and for the first time, he interrupted. His voice cut through Cran's like a blade. "No, Dreth. Enough. You wanted to see humanity without its mask of courtesy. Here it is." The chamber froze again. Paul's calm face had hardened. His eyes shone with quiet fire. "Do you wish to speak of war?" Paul continued, his tone sharper. "We have fought wars so terrible that whole generations knew nothing but fire and loss. Do you wish to speak of survival? We have crossed seas with nothing but wood and wind, not knowing if land waited on the other side. Do you wish to speak of strength? We have faced plagues, storms, hunger, and still we stand. Every step forward cost us dearly, and yet we kept walking. That is who we are." Many in the hall felt a chill at his words. Some who had laughed before now sat in uneasy silence. Paul stepped closer to Cran. He did not shout, but his steady tone carried more force than any raised voice. "You mock our dead. But our dead are why we live. You mock our failures. But our failures are why we succeed. Humanity does not forget. We carry every scar, and when needed, we turn them into weapons sharper than any blade." Cran, for the first time, did not speak. His mouth opened, then closed. His confidence wavered. The strength in Paul's voice was not born of boasting. It was born of truth, and that truth was heavier than any insult. Paul looked back to the council, his voice calm but powerful. "Do not mistake us again. We are not harmless. We are not soft. We choose courtesy because we know the cost of war. But if you push us past our limit, if you force us to turn off our courteous mode, then you will see what allowed us to survive when the universe itself seemed against us. And I promise you, it is not weakness." The hall was still. The only sound was the soft hum of lights above. Every alien in the chamber felt the weight of his words. Paul ended with a final line, spoken with clear strength. "Respect us, and we will be your strongest ally. Mock us, and you will learn why peace with humanity is a gift, not a right." When he stepped back, no one moved. Cran's smile was gone. His eyes lowered for a moment, though he tried to hide it. The other leaders sat in silence, their earlier whispers forgotten. The humans behind Paul remained quiet, but their faces showed pride. They had waited long for this moment, when Earth would finally show the truth. The council speaker, a tall figure with golden feathers, looked around the hall. His voice was soft but firm. Let the words of Earth be remembered. Courtesy is not weakness. Peace is not fear. Humanity has spoken. The meeting was not over, but something had changed forever. For the first time, the council had seen humans without their soft mask. They had witnessed the moment when patience ended, when calm words turned into steel. The courteous mode had turned off. And the galaxy now knew it. The council hall remained silent after Paul's words. Every leader, every envoy, and every observer felt the weight of humanity's presence. They had seen the mask of courtesy slip, and now, they waited to hear more. Paul understood that this was the moment to show the council why humans were not weak, and why courtesy was their choice, not a chain. Paul stepped forward once more, his gaze sweeping across the rows of alien leaders. His tone was firm, but calm. You have seen our patience tested, he said. Now hear our history, for it is written in courage, endurance, and the will to rise after every fall. The aliens leaned forward. Some were curious, others skeptical. They expected stories of a small, fragile world. They did not yet understand the power behind human survival. Our history is long, Paul continued. It begins with fire. Humans learned to create fire when the nights were freezing and the forests were full of danger. Fire gave warmth, light, and protection. Every spark we made was a step against death itself. He paused, letting the words sink in. Then came the oceans. Our ancestors crossed waters without maps, without knowledge of what lay beyond the horizon. Many never returned, but those who did brought back new lands, new food, and new hope. Humanity learned that risk was necessary for growth. Every failure became a lesson. Every loss became strength. The council listened closely. Some whispered to one another. Few leaders had ever heard a story told with such calm authority, yet with clear power behind it. Paul continued, his eyes moving slowly across the hall. We faced storms that could wipe out whole villages. We faced hunger so deep that people fought for the chance to live another day. We faced plagues that took our strongest and youngest. And yet, through all this, humanity survived. We rebuilt, we learned, and we adapted. Every scar became part of who we are. Every hardship became part of our courage. He stepped closer to the center, his voice carrying more strength. Our wars were many, and each one tested our will. We fought not to conquer, but to protect, to preserve life, to defend what we loved. We learned that strength is not always in weapons. Strength is in the spirit that refuses to break, in the mind that seeks solutions, and in the hands that rebuild what has been destroyed. Some leaders shifted uncomfortably. Even Kran's eyes narrowed as he listened. This was not the speech of a weak people. This was the story of a civilization that had survived every challenge the universe could throw at it. Paul raised his hand slightly. And yet, we chose courtesy. We chose patience. We learned that words could heal more than blades, and that respect could build bridges stronger than walls. We did not choose to be harmless. We chose to be wise. We chose peace. But our patience is not endless. Our courtesy is not weakness. It is a choice. And when that choice is no longer honored, we do not remain small. We rise. The room was silent again, but now it was different. There was a weight, a respect that had not been there before. The other leaders began to understand that humans had not survived by luck or chance. They had survived because every failure, every loss, every danger had been turned into a lesson, a weapon, and a shield. Paul's eyes returned to Cran. "You mocked our explorers who died in space," he said quietly but firmly. "Do you know why they ventured into the unknown? Because humanity does not fear failure. Because humanity knows that knowledge is more powerful than fear. Every human who fell became part of our strength. Every failure became a step toward survival. That is why we endure. That is why we grow. That is why we stand here today, calm, patient, and unbroken." The council speaker rose slightly from his seat. His feathers glimmered in the light. He spoke softly. "Let the history of Earth be remembered. Strength is not only in fleets and weapons. It is in the courage to survive and the wisdom to choose peace." Paul stepped back to his seat, the calm mask returning. His eyes were still sharp, but his voice softened. "We do not seek conflict. We do not wish to frighten. But we will not accept disrespect. Humanity is strong because we have chosen to be, because we have endured, and because we remember what has shaped us. This is our history. This is our strength. And now, the galaxy knows it." The council was quiet for long moments. Even Cran did not speak. The hall that had been full of whispers, laughter, and doubt now held respect. Humanity had spoken, not with threats, but with truth. Their history itself was a lesson. For the first time, many of the council members saw humans as more than courteous diplomats. They saw humans as a species forged by endurance, shaped by struggle, and strengthened by choice. They saw the truth behind the polite mask. And in that hall, every being, from the smallest alien to the tallest Dreth, understood that courtesy had been a decision, not a weakness. Humanity had offered peace, but it had also revealed its power. The council hall was heavy with silence. Every leader and observer had heard Paul's words. Humanity's history, its endurance, and its choice of courtesy had been laid bare. The air felt thick, charged with a new understanding. No one spoke at first, as if speaking might break the weight of the truth that had settled over them. Cran, the Dreth leader, remained standing in the center floor. His wide frame, once full of confidence, now seemed smaller under the gaze of humans. He had intended to test them, to show the council that humans were weak. Instead, he had witnessed something unexpected. Humanity's calm exterior had revealed hidden power. For the first time, Cran felt uncertain. Other leaders shifted in their seats. Some had quietly whispered doubts before. Now, they did not know what to say. The arrogance that had filled the chamber had disappeared. Respect had replaced mockery. The hall, once full of noise and chatter, now carried only the echoes of the human voice and the memory of its weight. Paul returned to the center floor, walking slowly and deliberately. He did not raise his voice. He did not gesture aggressively. Yet every step he took seemed to demand attention. The calm fire in his eyes told the council that patience had a limit, and it had been reached. "You have seen our history," Paul said softly, yet every word carried authority. "You have heard how humanity survived storms, wars, hunger, and loss. You have witnessed how courtesy is our choice, not our weakness. And you have seen that patience has a limit." The room was still. The Dreth leader's jaw was tight, and his eyes darted briefly to other council members. They all knew that humans were no longer just diplomats to be tolerated. They were a force shaped by endurance, ready to defend their choice of peace with unwavering strength. Paul continued, his tone calm but filled with meaning. "We do not seek to frighten anyone. We do not seek conflict. But respect is not earned by silence alone. It is earned by understanding the depth of who we are. Humanity's strength is not in fleets or weapons, though we have both. It is in the spirit that does not break, in the mind that learns, and in the courage to choose peace even when survival is hard. Some of the smaller races in the council leaned forward, listening intently. They had always underestimated humans. Now they saw a species that carried the weight of history and choice in its very being. They realized that being soft and courteous had not been weakness. It had been discipline. Cran finally spoke, his voice low and careful. Your words are strong, human. You have endured and survived. I understand now that I misjudged your kind. Paul nodded slowly, acknowledging the admission. You have seen only a part of humanity today, he said. We have chosen courtesy in front of you, but you must know that courtesy can end if pushed too far. It is not a mask for fear. It is a measure of control. We do not break easily, but when our limits are tested, we stand firm. The council speaker, golden feathers gleaming under the hall lights, rose from his seat. Let the words of earth be remembered, he said. Courtesy is a choice, and strength can hide behind patience. The galaxy has witnessed the truth of humanity today. A few council members, who had once whispered that humans were weak, now bowed slightly in respect. Some of the younger races exchanged looks, realizing that their assumptions had been foolish. The humans had not only endured insult, they had turned it into a lesson in strength. Even Cran's posture had changed. His shoulders were tense, but he no longer carried the arrogance of before. He had seen what happens when patience meets insult. He had seen humanity's spirit, calm yet unyielding. It was a lesson he would not forget. Paul returned to his seat, motioning to his team to remain calm. They sat quietly, observing, but their pride was visible. They had shown the council that humans were more than courteous diplomats. They were a species forged in struggle, strengthened by choice, and prepared to rise when challenged. For long minutes, the hall stayed silent. No one spoke. The lights above shone on banners and faces, reflecting the realization that humans had changed the perception of their race in this council. Respect had replaced doubt. Fear had replaced mockery. The silence was heavy, but it carried recognition, not tension. In that quiet, humans sat calmly, their courteous mode still visible, yet with a new weight. They had chosen when to turn it off, and the galaxy had watched in real time. Every being in the council had seen the truth. Humanity was kind by choice, patient by design, and strong when required. It was a moment of realization. Every whisper of doubt had ended. Every laugh had stopped. The council had witnessed something extraordinary. Humanity had shown that courtesy was not weakness. Strength could hide behind patience, and the galaxy had learned that respect must be given, or the consequences would be undeniable. The council hall was quiet. Every leader, every envoy, and every observer had felt the shift that began with Paul's firm words. Humans had shown that their patience was not weakness, that courtesy was a choice, and that strength could lie behind calm eyes. Now, the time had come to see the final effect of that revelation. Paul remained seated for a moment, watching the room. His team sat beside him, composed but proud. The hall was no longer filled with whispers or doubts. Instead, it held attention, respect, and understanding. The weight of humanity's endurance hung in the air like a tangible presence. The council speaker rose again, golden feathers glinting. The words of earth have been heard and understood, he said. Let this day be remembered. Humanity has shown patience, courage, and the choice to act with courtesy. They have also shown the power behind that choice. Let all leaders take heed and respect what has been revealed. Kran, the Dreth leader, stood slowly. His wide frame filled the center floor, yet he no longer radiated arrogance. His eyes met Paul's, and for the first time, he lowered his head in acknowledgement. "I misjudged your kind," he said, his voice steady but careful. "I tested you, expecting weakness. Instead, I have witnessed strength that is rare in the galaxy. I will remember this lesson." Paul nodded, his expression calm but firm. "Respect is earned through understanding, not fear. We offer peace, but we will not accept insult. Humanity chooses courtesy, but courtesy is not our limit. It is a measure of control, not of weakness. Remember that." Other council members began to rise in turn. Some from small worlds, who had once doubted humans, now bowed slightly in recognition. Some of the larger races, who had previously whispered among themselves, now spoke quietly, acknowledging that they had underestimated the human race. The younger races, curious and still learning the ways of the galaxy, leaned forward. They were fascinated. They had watched a species rise from insult to dignity, patience to controlled power. Humanity had shown them a lesson in discipline, endurance, and choice that few could match. Paul stood once more, his movements measured and calm. "We do not seek to dominate," he said, "nor do we seek to frighten. Our goal has always been cooperation, friendship, and mutual growth. But respect is not given freely. It must be recognized through truth, endurance, and integrity. Today, you have seen that humanity carries all of these." The council members listened, absorbing every word. Some nodded, some remained silent, but all understood. The image of humans as soft, harmless beings had been replaced by a vision of calculated strength, endurance, and courage. Kran stepped back, his posture relaxed but careful. "I will share this with my people," he said. "They will know that humans are not to be underestimated. Courtesy is a choice, but it is backed by history, courage, and the will to rise when tested." Paul looked around the hall, addressing every race without exception. "We offer friendship. We offer knowledge. We offer peace. But we ask for respect in return. The galaxy is vast, and our choice to remain courteous is strong. Do not mistake it for weakness. Humanity is patient, but we are also unyielding when necessary." The hall remained quiet for a long moment. Then, slowly, other leaders began to speak. They spoke in praise, in acknowledgement, and in agreement. The council had witnessed something extraordinary. Humanity had shown that courtesy could coexist with strength, that patience could hide power, and that respect was earned through endurance and choice. The youngest delegates of the council, some of whom had been openly skeptical, now watched with fascination. They had seen a species rise not with force, but with truth. They had seen humans turn insult into dignity, mockery into lessons of courage, and silence into controlled power. The council speaker raised his hand, signaling the conclusion of the session. "Let this be recorded," he said. "Humanity has earned respect. Let all worlds remember the truth of their endurance, patience, and choice. Let all leaders carry this lesson forward." Paul returned to his seat, his team quietly following. They had accomplished what they came to do. The galaxy had seen humans in full measure not just as courteous diplomats, but as a species shaped by struggle, strengthened by choice, and capable of rising when challenged. Kran returned to his seat, thoughtful. Other leaders whispered to one another, sharing impressions and lessons. Even those who had doubted humans could no longer ignore their presence or their power. The day had changed the perception of humanity across the council. As the lights above reflected on the banners of countless worlds, humans remained composed, calm, and polite. Their courteous mode had returned, but the memory of what had just occurred lingered in every mind. The galaxy had witnessed it in real time. Humanity had spoken, shown its history, revealed its strength, and earned respect. The council had seen that kindness is not weakness, that patience is not fear, and that courtesy can coexist with unyielding power. On that day, a new understanding settled over the Galactic Council. Humanity's place was no longer in question. They were allies, worthy of trust, respected by all, and capable of rising when necessary. The galaxy would never forget that courtesy was a choice, and when turned off, it revealed a force that demanded recognition.